Alright, I've been a little bit silly. I bought another car, and I don't need another car. I have an XD, an MG, an Austin, all sorts of other things that I need to do work on. But I went to visit my friend Ray Kwan to get a couple of last bits for the XW, which is just here. It's almost finished, just needs the exhaust and it's done. And he had an XC Fairmont GXL shell out the front, which was in particularly good condition. There's a bird on the roof. Anyway, I grabbed it, and much to my wife's disappointment, it came home and it doesn't look very nice. But I can do a lot with it. Now, GXLs were a go-between car between the Falcon GT, which ceased production in 1976, to the Fairmont Gear, which started in March 1979 with the Blackwood project. Now, they're a little less sporty than a GT, but they're a lot more sporty than an XD gear, in that they have a lot of goodies in them. And some of those goodies are more about sort of blackout around the windows and between the taillights with a special trim across the top. They have a limited slip differential, they have forward disc brakes, they came standard with power steering. They have a little remote mirror on the driver's door that's operated like a little joystick with cables off it. They had their own special interior, which was kind of like a corduroy cloth with their own door trims that had sort of a strapping across them instead of the standard sort of embellishing chrome things like the Fairmonts and the Falcons did. They had sports instrumentation with a tacho and all that sort of stuff on a padded dash with a little what's it called? Map light above the glove box. They had, what else did they have? Alloy wheels was another thing they had. All sorts of bits and pieces like that. Now, they came standard with a 4.1 cross-flow engine, and I'll talk about engines in a moment because I'm looking right at the engine I'm going to stick in this car. Because we were coming toward the mid-70s, we were a little bit conscious of emissions and economy and efficiency and all that sort of stuff. So it was a good car, the GXL. They're no stranger to me. I had one in the 80s, in the late 80s. I had another one too. Well, the other one was a Fairmont 351 manual. I had a friend that had two of them. I had another friend with one. My brother had one. His friends had them. There was about 10 of them all told that I became very, very familiar with. So it's kind of good getting one. This is a pretty good body. I'm pretty happy with it. Does have its fair share of problems, but we'll go and have a look at that in a minute. Now, the light's absolutely terrible, but here you can see an XC Fairmont GXL, which looks absolutely dreadful, but there are a few good things about it. Not much rust along here. I'll open the boot in a minute. We'll have a look under there. Someone's tried to block all this up. They're the original vents. I don't know why they've meant to do that or tried to do that, but as you can see here, some of the welding's not very good. So that needs to be attended to. I'd be inclined to cut that all out and start again. They've also got the parcel shelf for bigger speakers. That's not roadworthy. That's structure of car. You're not allowed to do that. So we need to fix that up too. Same on the other side. Rust-wise on the outside though, it is absolutely spot on. It's really, really good. We do have a little bit underneath this chrome moulding, and you can see here it's actually started breaking away, but the turret itself is really good. There's a spot there, hasn't gone through, but that's looking really, really good. We can clean that. No hail damage either, so the turret's nice and straight. Floors, I'll get the light in a minute, we'll talk about floors in a moment. Around the windshield, again, absolutely Mickey Mouse, and particularly this area here. That is spot on, there's nothing wrong with that. Same with the sills, but again, we need the light. Plenum chamber, same story, really good. Little bit of muck down there, but there's no rust. It's really, really, really good. The problem with this car is the repairs and modifications that have been done to it. Somebody's tried to sort of smooth it out and put a bit of filler there. That's all got to come out. This area here looks like it's a volcano or something. It's an XC with a pyroclastic flow. That's where the throttle cable, I think, came out. I'm not sure, but these holes here are all hacked up. This car, there's some holes there, holes there. I think that's air conditioning, so I'll get rid of that. I don't want an air conditioner in this car. I don't like those big select air compressors. They wreck the engine bay, in my opinion. This car has tags as well. It's original 302 cubic inch 4-speed manual. It's a L transmission. Cross member's buggered, and it's been cracked. You can see it's cracked there. And it's been repaired, and there's another crack running on the outside there. That I'm going to cut out and put a new one in. And this is hammered here as well. That's knackered. But aside from that, it's really, really, really good. So we'll get some doors open and have a look in here. A-pillars, really good. A little bit of nonsense up here. I'll fix that. I don't know why it's like that. These things are notorious for rusting underneath the boot rail, and it looks brilliant. Absolutely great. So that looks really, really good. I'm happy with that. There was a small Small bit of rust there. You can see the light. We're going to put the light shining up through there. I can fix that. That's not that hard to fix. There we go. So there are a couple of little issues there, but that's not bad. That's pretty good. That's pretty easy to fix. Wells on this side, so that's cool. I'm happy with that. A couple of issues there. Just there. That's easy. It's a lot better body shell than the XW was. There's one there. Those sorts of things there, you wouldn't replace that. You'd weld that in. That area there. But really good. That's as it came. It's a little bit of a mess. Excuse me. No. Ray gave me a new dash frame because the other one's all sort of broken into pieces in the boot. Underneath here, floors look Mickey Mouse. You can put a goldfish in there. There's lots of water. And of course under there looks really good too. That tunnel looks like it might have been cut for a top loader or something. I'm not sure. But it's not a new cut. It's an old one. But all told, it's absolutely fantastic. So there's some issues there in the A pillar I've got to look at. I might replate that, but these, the B pillars and all down here on the sill, so far with paint on it anyway, looks pretty good. It's dark now, but I'm just sort of rifling through all the crap on the floor. I found these for the front shock absorbers, so I'll get them plated, and also just fasteners like this, the original Ford ones. Actually no, they normally have a castellated washer, or sorry, they normally have a star washer on them, not a flat one. But anyway, look, I'm keeping all those sorts of things. So the boot lid looks absolutely brilliant. It's still got its evaporative emission sort of vapor separator thing there. Fuel tank, I can't see in there, but I can smell stale fuel. So this thing hasn't been on the road for a long time. Looks like this is actually in brilliant condition. All in here is wonderful. All down the sides there. And up under there. Really, really good. Another advantage, of course, is it's all pretty straight. Yeah, you've got to be happy with that. He circled a few things. No, I don't really bothered because it's all pretty good. I mean, I'll go over it all, of course. Look at these arches. Yeah, that's cool. The more I look at this, the more impressed I am with it, actually. Well, there's no badging that's been there, at least it's been filled in. And this boot lid, I've got to get the camera. The GXL has a trim that goes all across the top there. It hasn't got these bits. That's all blacked out. But I'll leave that. I'm not worried about any of that. Had a bit of trouble getting this door open, but again, it looks pretty good. Even under the doors, if you look under here, they're really, really good. There's one on the other side that's got some rust in it. But on the whole, they're bloody good. The worst part's the firewall, was a few rust issues. And of course the work the chap did. There's that hole, the volcano hole from the other side. You can see all the bits of MIG wire and all that sort of stuff there. So that's pretty nutty. And I don't know why it's like that. I don't know why he's done it like that. But the light's terrible. I'm sorry about this, guys, but it really is such a nice car. Look all under here. All in there. It's all good. It's absolutely all good. There's a bit of activity in the corner there. That could be from a leaky windshield. So of course I'll take all that sealer off. And if it needs any new metal, that's easy to do. It's such a fantastic car. Look at the turret underneath. So of course when I take the headlining out, I'm expecting it to all look like that. This is going to be so much better to do than the other car. At least it should be anyhow. Let's have a look underneath. Well, it hasn't got any calipers or springs. I think XF calipers, I think they'll fit those stub axles. I'll put some XF calipers in. Well, GXL's had limited slip diffs in them, and this is no exception. This has got one too, but it's got a little tag on there, but that doesn't mean anything. You've got to actually get under here and check them properly. But it's got drum brakes, and these are discs on them as standard, so I'm not sure how or why that was changed. It's got it had pump up shockers in it, so the fuel tank looks really good. It's got a bit of a dent there, but I think all I'm going to do is clean that out and paint it. But it's in amazing condition. I'm just surprised as I look further and further around it. I'm surprised. Well, this is a bit of a shame. This is all sort of stoved in here. I don't know if you can see around the other side, but it's sort of buckled, and it looks like it's been lifted by the pads of a hoist in this area here instead of underneath the torque boxes. Now, what's such a shame about this car is all the problems it's got are from neglect and bad decisions. Really, it's not anything that the elements have thrown at it, because the actual shell's in outstanding condition. It's just silly bits and pieces like this, and bad repairs. And this again is the sort of thing I'm talking about. Look at how the handbrakes are still attached. It's been unbolted. It hasn't been thought out terribly well. But the story was that there were two owners in reasonably close succession to one another. I'm not sure how or how much, and the second one was going to make a race car out of it. And so hence the reason it's all gutted. But whatever the case, I'm not going to make a race car. I'm going to bring it back to how it should be. So it's TC. So that, according to the plates, is September 1977. So the original colour was sweet cream. Don't know if I want that colour, with an ochre interior. It was a 4.9 litre 4-speed manual. So it'll get a few spec changes. And this is the engine we're going to use in this car. This is a 351 Cleveland. It's pretty well date correct for the car. This is a, I think, March 77 engine. The car September 77. This is out of a P6 LTD, which is sort of the Rolls-Royce front one. Now these engines, typically in XCs and all this sort of stuff, aren't all that powerful. They're actually disadvantaged. They're a very good design. They're American, and this is an Australian built one, of course, but the design is American. They started them in 1969, I think, and went through to 1974. But the problem they had was they were very, very difficult to emissionise, and of course in California in the early 70s and up to today, emission control's been very, very strict there. And the Americans had awful trouble doing that, and the reason for that is because of the canted intake and exhaust valves. On the intake side, they've got a valve relief cut in the top of the piston right up near the edge, which means that the ring set has to be mounted lower. And in doing that, there's that gap down the side of the piston between the piston wall and the top of the ring, which is very, very hard to burn that fuel, and of course gets thrown out, and that's bad for the environment. Now to counter that, they would have had to have redesigned the cylinder heads, straighten out the intake valve, raise the ring height and all that sort of business. Then you just end up with a nice big heavy Windsor. And so of course they ditched these in 1974 and continued with the small block Windsor. Now in Australia things were a little bit different. We didn't do that, but what the Australians did was they retarded the valve timing 3 degrees, and in doing that it sort of slugged them up a little bit. Retarding valve timing can be very useful on a nice modified engine. It moves your power curve higher, but of course with a camshaft like these it's not beneficial. And I'm not sure if the retardation was ground into the cam or it was in the timing set, but whatever the case, the camshaft and timing set are going straight in the bin. I'll use a nice Lunati. I've got a bit of experience with Lunati. I've got one in the XW here. Brother's got one in his Windsor, 347. It's got a few other bits and pieces on it, and it threw out 443 horsepower, not even sorted out yet. So we're going to use the Lunati cam, a Rollmaster 9 keyway timing set, which can be dialed in, and that's the secret of these things, really dialing a cam in properly. Now there were 3 types of emissionising we used. We used positive crankcase ventilation, which is basically taking fresh air from the air cleaner, going into the intake, or into the top of the rocker cover I should say, mixing with all the blow-by gases and so forth, and purged out via a one-way valve into the engine and reburnt. That came about in the late 60s. Then they used evaporative emission, which you'll see on the car is basically a sealed fuel cap, where and a sealed carburetor float bowl, and that's all stuck into a can of activated charcoal. When the engine starts up, of course, that purges out with vacuum. And of course in 1976, July I believe it was, we started with exhaust gas recirculation. And what that basically is the heads have changed a little bit. and the exhaust is ported up through here, comes through a hole here and here, in through an EGR valve, and is reburnt into the engine. Now the problem with that, all these bits and pieces with the valve timing, the EGR, that sort of thing, is it makes the engine less efficient. Of course, fuel economy went down, I think, between 10 and 15%, and also power output was down. So in the XC range, they introduced the car to thermoquad, a nice big 4-barrel, to try and counteract that. Now that was all good, but on the 302s it was a little bit too big a carburettor. I think they flow somewhere between 750 and 850 CFM, they're quite big, and of course you had that bogged down effect. And in the later Cleveland 302s there was a restrictor in the secondary here just to speed up the airspeed, or just to increase the airspeed I should say. I'm coming! And so that was a bit of a problem with the 302 engines that didn't have the capacity to use it. Every time I start a camera, daughter calls me, other daughter calls me, son calls me, dog starts barking, whatever, it's all good. In this case, I put a cup of tea on the brew and forgot about it, which is always happening here. Tea's always going cold. Now with this engine, as we said, we're going to use Linati, we're going to use a nice timing set, that's all good. New oil pump, we don't need a high volume oil pump because we're not turbocharged, we don't need another oil feed anywhere, so it's just a standard volume's fine for that sort of thing. New bearings, all this sort of stuff. I'll leave the pistons right now, I'll check them out again. But in order to put the new cam in, we'll also get the distributor recurved. I'll put a Pertronics igniter in if I can find one for this Dizzy. This is a points one, this isn't out of this engine. Good thing to remember with Clevo's Dizzies is to put in, they've got two different size spigots at the bottom for the oil drive. And so we may have to make sure we either get the early one or the late one because there's a bit of size difference there. So we'll get that recurved. Also, it's going to have a card of thermoquad, which they're ugly, but they can fly right, you can modify those, and a functional EGR valve. Sort of. It'll be there anyway and it'll look pretty good. And they'll all be connected through these TVS switches, so it has to look absolutely factory. That's what I'm interested in. So, hope you enjoyed this series. It's probably not going to attract the attention that the XW did, but I'm kind of looking forward to it because they kind of mean a bit to me, these XCs. I'm quite fond of them. Now this engine's a Bitzer. I bought it as a block. These heads, believe it or not, they're all dirty. They've got bog dust and overspray and everything on them. These have already been reconditioned. These are 2V Clevo with unleaded or hardened valve seats in them, 4V exhaust valves, that sort of thing, and they're all good to go. So when I take these off, they'll look brand new. That manifold looks like it's off an XC. They're not good. There's no restrictors in there. It could be an XD, an early XD, whatever. I think my XD's got one the same as that. It's looking pretty clean. I don't want to get carried away with the water. I just want to wash the floors and just see exactly what's there. I'll put the camera down because I'm about to splash onto it. So I've sort of tentatively dried it out. One thing I didn't notice about XCs is they have, looks like they have a second set of floor drains in the back, which I didn't know about, but this looks absolutely brilliant. I mean, the power washer got rid of a bit of the deadening and you can see it's just all new metal under there. Tiny bit of surface rust there, but that is nothing. It looks like this has been cut out. Maybe they put a top loader in or something, I don't know. But it is in incredible condition. The worst part about this is basically the firewall and what the previous chap did to it. I've drenched that handbrake. I'm not getting underneath it today, so I just washed it with it there. But I've got nothing to complain about. I mean, it's like brand new. And these channels, there's a bit of dirt still down there. I've left that. I mean, really? That's a very, very lucky gig getting a car this good. So, and the fact it's straight outside and there's minimal rust. The only repairs I have to make are the ones that the previous owner did. I've got to go over his work. I've got to reattach those. But then they were probably going to get taken out too. He probably lifted them off. But all told, this is a minter. really, it's great. No complaints at all. So as far as buyers are concerned, I'm not unhappy at all. It was a little over $1,000. The boot lid's great. The doors are good. Some of them are excellent. Some of them need a little bit of work. The floors are great. The sills are great, although they're a bit bent where it's been lifted on a hoist. I'm going to try and straighten that. But the work is minimal, really. It's just fixing up other people's work and moving ahead with it. It's got all glass with it. It's got bumpers, all sorts of stuff. It hasn't got the front panels, but Ray's got those, and I've sort of put my name on them, so I've got to pick them up off him. But I've also got hold of an XC Falcon cross member, so I need to see if that's going to fit before I start unbuttoning everything there. But I'll make it's not the world's nicest GXL, but it'll be one of the nicer ones when I'm finished. Hope you've enjoyed it. See you later.